All right, and we started. Do we play music? Or I don't know if these new people are used to music that we play when we get started, Matt. Let's see.
They'll figure it out.
Wait for it. I forget which one we typically start with.
Feeding the ducks, right?
Feeding the ducks. Wow. We're back, baby. Welcome, people that are tuning in for our lives. Go ahead. Come on. Did I see a little movement from Katie over there? Just a little. There you go.
There's Charm.
I see some movement from Rob.
Hello. No movement from me.
Come on. Good to see you. Good to see everyone here. Welcome. And this is where Evan, the crazy thing is Evan's the biggest dancer. You just can't see him on his screen. Welcome everybody to the Facebook Live. We're now on YouTube, I believe Twitch. I don't know what happened with Instagram. Unfounded Ventures. Today we're doing live table read from Behind the Shroud, an upcoming a released novel from Matt Emmorey himself. Has anyone got it, by the way? Show of hands.
I know Kurt has.
There we go. 2 people on here, baby. You're going to hear from the people that will be playing some of the characters in Behind the Shroud. You're going to get an update from how our origin novel is coming along. Evan will be working on that cover page. And what else? Oh, we'll also do an update on the children's books. So we're doing a bunch. It's been a minute since I've been back, so I'm nervous. If you're here, feel free to say what's up in the comments. Where are you at? And if you know the paths of Bastunia, what path are you currently walking? Katie, Rob, do you guys know the paths of Bastunia? Have we talked about Defender, Explorer, Builder paths?
Yeah, I'm Builder.
Ooh, Katie, you got a quiz to take. Kurt, okay. do you know about the 3 paths?
Vaguely. I feel like I'm more on like an Explorer path right now.
I was going to say that's a really nice way of saying no when you said vaguely. We'll pass you the.
You came through. You saved it.
We'll pass the quiz to you as well. If anyone here wants to know what their path would be in Bastunia, feel free to say just quiz in the comments, and we'll send something to you. Let's just kick it off with the guy that I care about the most here, Evan. Man, how you doing?
Yeah,
there's my boy. I'm actually, for those that don't know, Matt, Evan, Casey, and I meet every Wednesday, and I'm keeping a running tally of Evan, how are you doing with negative responses? Right now, we're up to 3 weeks in a row without a positive response, so we will see how that goes.
I've got a similar tally in my head.
It's got to be way longer for you, man. My gosh,
Katie's face is expressing concern. He's gonna be okay. He's gonna pull through.
Matt, how have you been, man? How are things? New dad life, for those that don't know, since last time we went live, Matt had a baby.
Yep. I did have a baby January 1st.
First ever male pregnancy.
Huge.
Yep. Yeah, I think second, actually.
Hashtag strength.
I wasn't the first. There has been one before. Me and the seahorses. It's been great. My patience is way less. And I'm having to address just how shallow my sainthood truly is. I thought I had stuff down. I thought I had life figured out, but turns out a baby will reveal things. But it's been great. I absolutely love it.
Love it, dude. You want to tell us? Can we know his name, or do you want to keep that?
Yeah, his name's Rhodes.
Rhodes, and then family name. Do you want to throw family name in there?
Yeah, Rhodes Rylander Emmorey.
Dang,
he's awesome.
Rylander. I told Matt, can I tell the Rylander story we had from the other day?
Sure. I can't think of where you're going to go.
I told Matt that I'm all excited because I'm his Uncle Dylan, and anytime I meet him, I'm going to say, there can only be one Rylander. And then Matt's like, well, that's a little morbid because it's a family name, and all the other ones have passed away, so he is like the one Rylander right now, which I think just doubles down on why I think it'll be good. And then also, Kurt Candor Willis, since last time we were on, has been married. Congratulations. How's married life?
Thank you. It's going well. A couple months in, and still very much in the honeymoon phase.
Oh man, congratulations!
Loving it.
Stay in that honeymoon phase forever.
That's the goal.
And Katie, who will be playing Saw today, since we spoke last, her college football team, the Ohio State Buckeyes, won a national championship. In 3 words or less, what are you feeling right now, Katie?
I think
Other
the
than-
turn of phrase we use around here is Ohio. So there you go.
Katie does not care about it. So we're going to dive in today. I think what I messed up with last time is not getting into doing the table reads quick enough, and then we ended up going too long. I'd like to keep this within the hour, so we're gonna kick it off with just some updates that we have coming down with the children's book and with the origin novel. So we're going to start with the children's book. For anyone that watches this, whether live or on the replay, the children's books have finally arrived, hardcovers and paperbacks. After a long-awaited back and forth, we finally figured out the dimensions and the bindings, and we got everything perfect. We now have the children's books, and they are going to be sent out to backers next week. You will get a poster, very cool colored poster, that ended up really hurting us in shipping charges. You will get a paperback, you will get stickers, and then if you added on any other stories, we will send those to you as well. So in the next couple of weeks, if you do not receive them, you can always reach out to us and we can figure things out. I love them. I've read them to my son multiple nights to put him to bed, and he is now asking for the book, which is really cool. Like, he wants to read that over other books. The first night was a wreck. He just crushed me when I tried to read it to him, and then he wanted another book. But now he likes it. So hopefully your kids like it too. Huge shout out, Evan. The pictures in that, the colors are incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
That's Evan.
That's what we're relying on for 1.5-year-olds. Almost, wait, what is he, like 19?
No, 18 months, man. 1.5.
Yep.
Like almost exactly 1.5. He's standing up on skates, by the way, which is awesome for 1.5. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything else for the children's books. Some of you backed at the highest level, and we are creating now 2 more children's books to come out hopefully this year. One with Luca the Lightseer, and another one with Summit the Scholarly. So Beck and Keith have a chance to meet your kids as well, if you would like to have a book created for your kid that they would have for the rest of their life. We create a story with you where your kid gets to teach a really cool lesson. That's everything on anything I'm missing on children's book, Matt? I'm so excited for the table read. I'm just trying to rush to it. Am I missing anything?
No, you're good.
Harbinger. Wow. If your name is Casey Kinsey, you have been waiting for this book for almost a year. And if your name is Matt, you've been saying this will be done for a year. Harbinger
June
is
2024, coming to a bookstore near you.
Harbinger is an origin story within the Unfound universe. Matt, you actually just started typing up the back cover today. Give us an update. Where are we at with the story?
Yeah.
How long is it? And like a summary of it.
Yeah. So it's right now, I just received a proof, and I've created this version of the book that has massive margins for me to do kind of one final edit. I think it's really helpful for my creative editing process to have like a book-like experience with my own story. And I'm like folding down the pages that I have edits on. And so far, there's a few pages that have not been folded down. So
it's a good thing. It's very good.
Yeah. And so it's a lot. I'll grab it at some point. I'll share it with you guys here. It's the origin story and how everybody came to Bastunia. Yes. But I wanted it to completely be able to stand on its own, completely be its own story, have its own characters, not rely on Joan and anything that happens 293 years later in the future where the comic books take place, or roughly even like 100 years in the future where this story, Behind the Shroud, that we're going to be doing the table read, takes place. So we're working on this book description, and actually I'm open for all of your feedback, those of you here, on how you want to receive this. With one small little bit of further ado, basically the idea is 99 people are brought to this planet, Bastunia. It's a wild planet. This god has been working to make the planet habitable for a while, but by no means is it like the Garden of Eden. There are a Zigra, there are threats, there are things that, in a sense, are there purposefully so that people have predators and they have things to rally together to battle. And almost immediately, they go from being this like enlightened people who know their calling, they know their path in life, to being a fractured people. And this one tribe, it's like the mind, the body, and the heart. Essentially, those are the three tribes. They fracture. The mind tribe ends up like hiding off in this coastal village, way in the corner of Bastunia, not wanting to anything to do with people, anything to do with the Zigra. They're like full on hiding. And so that's what I'll say. That's where the story takes place, in this coastal village. So the back matter of the book: young, wild, and curious Argus wants nothing more than to dance, play music, and uncover the fascinations of his coastal village with the love of his life, Eugenia. But when she enters the trials to become a member of the Sophistra, Argus believes their only chance of a future relies on him passing the trials as well. Finally paying attention to society, Argus realizes his leaders are keeping secrets. While he should be applying himself to the trials, Argus finds himself distracted by the implications of his chilling discoveries that alter his perspective, his purpose, and the course of his life. And there may be some tweaks in there, but there you have it.
That's me clapping. I am curious, especially people that are just hearing it. Candor, Saw, Rob / Charm, Evan. Any thoughts? Any initial thoughts? Like, you hear it, does it get you to want to read the book? Are there things that, if you know about the world, you wish were said?
Evan probably wants it to be darker. It raised the stakes.
I was actually going to go Evan first.
Not gritty enough. No, it sounds good. Yeah, I definitely want to read it. I will say, just from trying to multitask here, it sounds a little bit long for back matter. If I'm understanding correctly, that you just read what's going to go on the back cover. You might
starting with young, wild, and curious Argus. Not that whole thing, of course, but
I would probably want to listen to it again more actively and critically in order to really think about it. But yeah, it felt long for back matter. But that's more of a like printing issue than content per se.
Speaking of long, this thing is 516 pages. That is wild. I don't like it's gonna. I've read it, which is I never thought I would read a 516 page book. Let's go. Rob, and then Katie, and then Kurt. Any thoughts, at least off the rip?
I like it. I like when people create words and like meanings that, it doesn't. There's no kind of, I don't know what. Sorry, I've forgotten what the actual word is that I'm talking about. But where you go into the trials kind of thing and learning how to do those trials, and you've created a word that we know exactly what it means. We know exactly the kind of thing, but it's a brand new word. It's not something that's based in our language or, that we know of. I love that. It's such a clever thing that writers can do. Yeah, I really like it.
I keep forgetting that Sophistra isn't the area. It's the people. Katie, any thoughts?
It sounds pretty exciting overall. I kind of want to know more details that you can't give, and that's a good sign. So the fact that I want to know more probably is good.
Hell yeah. Kurt, not to put you on the spot, newly married man.
Loving it.
Man,
that's great.
Big fan. Big fan.
I say we just go with Kurt's. We just go with Kurt's, and Kurt loves it, so we're in.
I think actually I'll go ahead and put that quote on the back cover too. Loving it.
So it's 516 pages. It's a long one. It's incredible. It's a really good, like, young. You're kind of like seeing this young coming of age story mixed with a little bit of romance, and a character that I'm not going to say who it is that I absolutely hate with like the fire of 1,000 suns. Hate this character, which means it's written well.
They're some of the best characters, though. There's nothing quite as fun as hating a character.
You're like,
she's the Skylar White.
What the heck are you doing? I didn't say who it was. Now you're saying it's a she.
My fault.
What's Evan going to be doing, Matt? Just if you want to give like a summary on Evan will kind of be creating this while we read from a different book.
Right. So this is a scene in the coastal village. You'll see the ocean come into focus. You'll see these two characters sitting on the hill coming into focus. In my description of the god preparing the world to be inhabited by these people, one thing you ought to know about the god of this world, Ubuntu, is his specialty is creatures like animals, beasts, which is why he decides, how can I do something special for my people? Well, I'll hitch them soulfully to a creature. And so two of the creatures that he dispatches on the world to clean them up and make them habitable are this like giant gastropod, this like basically two types of mollusks, and they like clean the water. That's what you're seeing in front of you is what's called a bivalve, like a clam, essentially. Clams like take in dirty water and they spit out clean water. So you're seeing a massive clam, and then you're seeing this massive gastropod. This shells. They're shells. You've heard of those, right?
Let's keep it simple, man. God.
I'm sorry. The words are there. Why don't I just use them? God forbid you learn something.
Rob's got a question.
Well, it's kind of just a really interesting bit of information. There's a whole country, I think it might be Poland, that their entire water system is based on 6 mussels that are in a tank. And if these 6 mussels detect impurities in the water, then they close and the entire water network for this entire country turns off.
Wow.
I think it's Poland. I'll have to double check and let you guys know. But how cool is that? It made me think of that.
Only 6 mussels? Sounds like Kurt. Oh, boom. All right, Matt, keep going.
Got it. So that's what we're going to see. One of these shells to the left, as it takes shape, is used as an archive for like these old world texts. And then the other shell is used for an auditorium. If you imagine like a clam on its back, like the terraced aspects of the shell. So there you have it. This will come into clarity as we go. I think I'm ready to do a table read.
All right, man. Let's dive into table reads. In the background, Evan will be creating the cover for our origin novel. We are now going to dive into table reads for. Evan, I'm going to remove.
Go for it.
Yeah, this from stage, and then Matt. Do we want to just keep it like this, or do we want to pull up the? You got it. So before we pull that up, we will be now doing a table read for Behind the Shroud, which is another novel that is in the Unfound World. Matt just got done talking about the origin novel. Behind the Shroud takes place about 100 years in the future. And then 100 more years is where we see Tales of Bastunia. We're creating an entire history of Bastunia, and we're going into it about midway through. That being said, let's go. Matt, high-level summary of the story we're diving into, and then we're going to introduce the characters.
Here's the book description, and then we'll just dive right in. This is, since we're starting actually at chapter 1, I'm not going to give you to start with any more than a reader would have if they picked this book up. And I did share my screen if you wanted to have that, but I like this like Brady Bunch feel, so we could just do this. All right. As winter thaws into spring, something sinister keeps the sleepy town of Lucidus in chills. 10 lives have been claimed by a mysterious killer, and whispers point to a figure once adored, an eccentric jester rumored to have retreated into madness. Summoned to investigate is Pendelv the Parser, a detective with 3 beasts and a sharp mind. As he unravels the puzzle, he finds more than he bargained for, an old feud reignited, a shadowy foe lurking in the fog-drenched riverlands, and a deadly game where every move might be his last. In the midst of peril, an unlikely bond begins, offering a dark insight and perhaps a key to the killer's next move.
All right, man. Do we dive in right in, or do we want to introduce the characters?
Let's introduce some characters.
Awesome.
Good call.
Do you want me to introduce the characters?
So Pendelv the Parser, that is the detective who is summoned to investigate the case. The eccentric jester, and I'll popcorn Joran, and then you can popcorn someone else.
I am the eccentric jester, Joran. I am the town idiot that is being accused of these murders that most people, including my old dear friend who is now foe, want dead. That old dear friend, now foe, his name Saw, that I call Sawyer. I will popcorn over to Saw.
Saw is the lawyer around these parts, not the lawyer, the sheriff around these parts, and well, kind of a lawyer, a little bit on some laws, but yeah, just real big on the rule of law and people that tend to break it, like jesters. But in charge of her is Charm. So, Rob.
Oh yeah, nice. I thought we were popcorn a different way.
I'm Chum. I am the Eldwiser of Water. So I was given power by the god, and I kind of oversee a group of, like, a family of people. I don't know who's popcorn to.
I have no idea how you were going to popcorn as soon as it went to you. I'll come in here. Saw, who is actually the beacon of order. That's kind of the word of the sheriff in this area. Right-hand man, a guy that's just eager to shoot, eager to climb the ranks. Candor. Kurt, introduce Candor to us.
Feel free to do it in Jathan Statham's accent.
Cyrus Candor. Looking to take down Jester. He's taking down Jar.
Oh my God, I'm excited for this. And then finally, Matt, introduce Tala.
Tala Abadiano is she's kind of she's a character that comes in later when Pendelv and Joran essentially join forces. This Tala is dispatched to go chase them down. She's this woman who's got this like terrifying beast that's like half bear, half owl. And Saw needs a beast that's large enough to ride to like chase them across this prairie. And Tala is under the employ of this guy. He doesn't really appear in this book. He appears in the book only by name, by reputation. He's like the tycoon of the area, this like empire builder. He has a bunch of people in his employ. Tala's one of them. So they're like, yeah, you can take Tala out on loan so that you can chase down Joran.
Tala, you have done a bunch of your own, like you went into this like a D&D character. You're like, I have a backstory too that you need to know about. High level, like what would be like the few words you would use for Tala's backstory, so we know more about your character?
Oh, definitely dark, very dark. I showed it to Matt, and he was like, "Man, that went dark real fast." So it's the way I see her personality. She's like this very serious person who's like very strict, follows the rules and whatnot. So I kind of see her becoming that kind of person because of her past, which is somewhat dark.
Strict, serious, and follows the rules would also be how I describe Joran. So with that being said, let's dive in. We're going to go right to chapter 1. So Matt, we really don't need any explanation. Real quick, everybody, would we rather be reading from this, or do we want to do this Brady Bunch style where Saw is Alice? Alice is the one in the middle of the, yeah, there you go. Do you guys like Brady Bunch style, or do we want to read the words? Any thoughts?
What is Brady Bunch style?
I'm English. I've got no idea what the Brady Bunch is, apart from people say it's a TV program.
TV
and
show.
I think it was bad.
Do we just want our pictures, or do we just want our pictures, or would we like to see what we're reading from?
I'd probably prefer just pictures because I've got what I'm reading from in front of me.
One for just pictures.
Cool. Sounds good. Mind.
I also have the document up. So
this is a dictatorship anyway. We're only going to what the Eldwiser said. Let's dive in. Matt, you
That's
say
how the whole world should run. I've told people this so many times. Do what I say, everything will be fine.
Matt, chapter 1 we're starting at, correct?
Indeed we are. All right, sweet. So I'm going to get myself situated here. Cool. Chapter 1, Making Camp. Nobody saw the man enter Lucidus. He came by the light of the unblinking moon. He moved in stealth within a fog so dense that even the emblems patrolling the village did not detect his passage. Those keeping watch observed an unnatural fog, perfumed by hints of metal which moved counter to the gentle wind. They thought nothing of it. They merely straightened their coats and squinted their eyes. The experienced among them transferred their senses into their callings, their soulfully adjoined spirit beasts, which had anatomies better suited to surveillance. Even the keen eyes and trained ears of the most astute callings registered nothing out of place. Had he been less overworked, a young, zealous emblem named Candor might have noticed, if not his pangolin beast Nipper. Alas, even Candor did not possess the gumption to raise suspicions over mist. Absent any harm done, they were content to let it pass. It did. The fog came, the fog went, and Pendelv the parser walked within it. He pondered his reasons for veiling his entry as he walked. Too many investigations had been twisted by word of his arrival. The parser's involvement signaled things had become dire. The news changed people. They got tiresome. They started acting out their guilt. Best case, that meant straightening up, changing their habits. Worst, trying to be helpful. By his estimations, it was better to avoid all that. Arrive unannounced. The more secrecy, the better, he had learned. Pendelv had never officially accepted the beacon's invitation by letter. No one, not even the water beacon herself, knew he was coming. By design. Every village in these parts had an order enforcer who wore the Eldweiser's emblem like it granted them impunity. Find a town with the least amount of order and look for an agent of chaos. If not in Azigra, the parser's second stop would be with the emblems themselves. As far as he was concerned, nobody was innocent until they proved themselves to be. Especially in this neck of the Jungian woods. There was a saying that described Lucidus and the other settlements at the foot of the organism: ruckus follows rainbows. In these parts, superstition ran rampant. They believed the deity spoke to them in signs and symbols. A rainbow meant luck, the perfect time to boldly attempt to outwit one's betters. The Lorens splashing over the bulkheads in edifice before the first colors of fluorescent meant a season of prosperity. On the contrary, long winter was a bad omen. The smell of sulfur in the air meant fertility, the optimum time to try for a baby. And finally, an emblem on one's chest denoted authority and sound judgment. Naturally, the parser, a man of science, recognized that increased output from the sulfuric fumaroles was a sign of one thing, and one thing only: volcanic activity. Still, most absurd of all was the notion that an insignia on one's chest made one ordained by the deity to dispense order by any means they saw fit. Though Pendelv had yet to meet an Eldweiser, if deductions could be made by their respective pandit families, color him unimpressed. Still, out of habit, he cautioned himself against hasty verdicts. This was a real town. Lucidus was not another backwater. Pendelv had actually heard of it. Not that he ever expected to be summoned there. Lucidus was a neighboring town to the Water Temple, the seat of the Beacon of Order herself, a woman touting a high double-digit force of emblems across the waterlands. Pendelv's presence suggested a failure that most leaders would shy away from, hence a second reason for veiling his arrival: professional courtesy. He arrived at Beacon Saw Sorrento's estate without issue. Pendelv released the set of his jaw, and at once the air began to clear. The clingy static relaxed, the fog dissipated, and the natural night emerged. Chugach, the man's canine beast, lowered its antlered head and snorted. "Well done, Chew. We'll be safe here," he told his beast. "I only have one small order of business, and I won't need light for it. You can relax." He would not have to tell his calling twice. Voltaics, the version of auric control that Chugach possessed, and the means by which it created fog, took a lot out of the beast. "Smitha," the parser said, turning to a second calling, arboreal in form. Peeling itself off from the woods, this beast was a dead ringer for one of the leggy beech trees that grew in abundance on the Beacon's estate. Smitha and the trees possessed the same smooth, clean, gray, unblemished bark. "This'll be camp," he said, indicating a clearing around the side of the Beacon's manor. He sighed. So this was Lucidus. Now that he arrived, he allowed himself a moment to anticipate his case. Only a week ago, he received the Water Beacon of Order's letter. It had been short, tense, informative, and ominous. It read,
Pendelv the Parser, your services are needed in the Waterlands. The bad omen of long winter is promptly fulfilled. The frozen ground resists our graves, and yet we have been forced to dig many, of all sizes. After weeks of investigating, we still have more questions than answers. The few answers we do have are as follows. No pilots have been killed. The victims cannot be linked by industry or alliance. Happenstance alone unites them, the wrong road taken at the wrong time. They are killed by poison. The smell of it lingers on them. I fear a prolonged attack of resolution will unseat the order on which our society relies. Should you hold any regard for the water pandit, your Eldwiser requires your assistance. WBO.
Pendelv patted the folded letter in his breast pocket. And Luke, the parser said, addressing a third beast. A camouflaged crocodilian beast revealed itself riding within Smith's branches. Mute gray scales morphed into vibrant green and yellow, with hints of scarlet within the folds. Your free ride is over. I need your eyes. Go to the quarry and the millworks outside of town. Look for anything that you deem suspicious. I will be with you every step of the way. Soundlessly, Luke dropped to the ground and vanished into the night. Smith's mastery was internal creation, which manifested as the ability to rapidly generate the trappings of trees in any shape, be that wood, leaf, root, flower, or fruit, though the last did not appeal to Pendelv's lavish tastes. On the top of the parser's minds were the comforts of home, which he had learned how to emulate while traveling. Over time, man and beast iterated a hammock design that rivaled the most sumptuous sleeping arrangements. Smitha went to work on it now, burrowing its lanky legs into the soft earth. Pendelv insisted the calling take measures to avoid attention by anyone with aura sight. When creating, so he had been told, the tree beast's roots would glow with surges of aura. The parser, though revered for his powers of deduction, was unable to see aura. Such was forever a thorn in his side. Chugach, now relieved of duty, the location of camp established, curled up against Smith's trunk. The beast stationed itself in a guardian's position. The parser knew that despite a night spent with one eye open, his wolf calling would be attentive in the morning. Pendelv completed his last order of business in a thicket of bushes. On his way back, he removed the cord of ivy tangled in Chugach's antlers. Once in his leafy bed, he transferred the bulk of his visual senses into Luke. Nothing better than staking out a crime scene while simultaneously horizontal.
And scene. That's a lot of... I didn't swear. That's a lot of flipping talking for you. Pendelv, how'd it feel?
Good.
We see a detective come into town, and we learn that his attachment to these callings is part of him as well. Wolf-like calling, tree-like calling, crocodile-like calling.
Yeah, speaking of, I just...
whoa. Calm down, man.
Hold on.
Jeez.
I did think I had it
Wow.
How
long is this going to take?
Depends on how long this button takes. It's worth the wait. Trust me.
Calm down, Katie.
Let the man roll up his sleeve.
Yeah. I just finished. This is like an approximation of what Luke would look like. Sort of one part Draco lizard. You see the big dewlap. One part alligator. If I rolled it up, he's got a little bit more of like an alligator-esque tail.
And you also have Chugach at the top, correct? That is nice.
And there's Chugach.
God. You guys, anyone watching want to know how serious we take this world? It's tattooed on our bodies.
Yeah.
My God. If anyone wants to create a fungus-looking calling and a dog with a red panda, I'm open. Man.
I think of Adder as more cow than dog.
Well, it's not your calling, so how about we just move it on? So we've set the scene. We want to bring everyone in. That's actually new, the letter from Saw, so I really like that. Where are we heading to next, Matt?
Next, we're going to go down to chapter 9, which is also narrated by me, but we have Saw in this chapter. We have Candor, and we need somebody who'd be willing to just do 3 lines. The 3 lines are, don't touch him. Anyone, Tala, you want to step in on this one? Evan?
Definitely not Evan.
Yeah.
Evan will step in if there's a line that's, I don't think we have that. So let's go, Talia.
There's a corpse in this scene. Evan?
I'll do it.
Evan's in on corpse. All right. Do you want to give us a quick rundown of what we're stepping into here?
Yep. The investigation begins. So morning arrives. Saw discovers Pendelv on her estate. They have a discussion, and they're like, hey, you're a day late. We got our man, and we're going to go arrest him. So they're heading to make the arrest right now, and Pendev's like, hey, this is perfect, because I kind of want to go meet this Joran the Jester guy too, and what better way than to watch you arrest him?
Rock on. Let's dive in.
Chapter 9, The 11th Victim. And then after this, I speak way less. All right. The beacon spoke the truth about everyone having a role to play. Conveniently, Pendelv's investigation beyond Joran began with Joran. Laying eyes on the peculiar man whose calling had destroyed so much of Lucidus would answer many of his lingering questions. So when the company of emblems, led by the beacon herself, marched up the pine needle-laden road toward where the jester was last seen, the parser walked with them. Chugach came along, but the detective had other roles in mind for Smitha and Luke. Over the years, Pendelv discovered there were times to hide his beasts and times to show them. Those like Candor, young, confident, assertive, boasted their callings like muscles. They bared tooth and nail, showcased their masteries, and held nothing back. That line of thinking flowed naturally from Saw's deterrent philosophy. There were times for shows of force, though scarce. To the youth, the world had yet to exist beyond their own conceptions. Thoughts of enemies far superior in size and skill, or problems solved through tact and tenderness, had yet to occur. As a rule, the emblem shared one primary tool, force, functional for an arrest, but little else. Because of this, they found themselves ill-equipped for the first of many challenges they would face that day. A trader's cart blocked the road. It lay on its side, its fares scattered helter-skelter. As they approached, they saw no sign of a person or beast.
Be aware of an ambush,
Candor cautioned the others. His calling, Nipper, raised its scales and ballooned its dewlap as it had done when confronting Pendelv earlier. Candor signaled to a fellow emblem, a man with an avian beast, to go ahead and inspect. The company moved to protect Saw, not sparing a single thought for the detective. And for good reason. Chugach ran ahead. While the emblem's callings hung back and waited for the all-clear, the antlered wolf rushed in. Though Chugach's confidence played like bravery to their companions, that was just a convenient veneer. The parser had already assessed the situation and deemed it a genuine crisis. A career spent venturing the continent came with innumerable emergencies and a handful of bona fide ambushes, so he learned how to spot the differences. Though not concerned about an ambush, Pendelv was afraid, just not for himself. In the last 20 minutes, they had passed a dozen better places to stage an ambush. The charging Lauren lay behind a row of thick, thorny brush on the left-hand side of the road, and on the right lay an ample clearing. In many places along the road, evergreens, cliffs, the river, or other natural obstructions created an ideal choke point for an ambush, but not here. This spot would be ideal for a trader to set up shop and to sell to all comers and goers. Beyond that, the cart lay on its side in a mess of wares. An ambush often included bait, but not smashed urns of salt, potash, and washing soda. The value that could be extracted from the average passerby paled in comparison with the value of those goods, making its destruction counterproductive. By itself, that could suggest simple-minded bandits, which did not elevate the risk in Pendelv's mind. Good bait may be an injured woman, a lame calling, or an earnest-looking child. Judging by the green corrosion on the cart's metal hubs and axles, the cuttings of wild desert rose, and the regionally specific goods, this trader had been heading to Lucidus from the environs around Lake Prism. Chugach came around the cart and confirmed the parser's fears. The crumbled, pallid figure solved the case of the missing trader. Not missing, but drained of being. He sat with his back up against a tree, looking almost peaceful, if not for the glazed vacancy behind his eyes. The long shafts that once hitched the calling to the cart had been fractured like bones. Its absence made the trader's lifelessness near conclusive. Don't touch him.
Don't touch him.
Don't touch him.
Don't touch him.
Someone called out. I want to be sure, Pendelv said, more in the name of thoroughness than uncertainty.
You'll get more evidence than you bargained for.
So, Beacon Saw said urgently.
You'll be next. This man has been poisoned.
Pendelv had not seen any toxic orange sludge. Though he did detect a trace of sulfur in the air, he attributed that to the caustic grime that coated the cart's chassis. He stood tall and looked around to be sure. This is what it looks like.
Yes.
Kandor answered. Someone touches a bit of that orange goo and then it's a slow walk into oblivion? The parser asked. These types of questions got people talking, with language steeped in ambiguity, hinging on elementary. Some over-eager emblem would jump at the opportunity to clarify. Even more effective was to confidently propose a false theory. The only thing that emblems like these enjoyed more than status was telling someone how wrong they were.
Something like that,
Kandor said with relish.
Or they drink the water, or they drink the wrong water, eat the wrong fruit, touch the wrong corpse.
Pendelv bit his lips, noting an abnormality in the boy's delivery. He nodded, pretending to accept the information without question. Yet, to the parser's ears, it sounded like speculation. Emblem Kandor, unaccustomed to being challenged and allowed to stretch his certainty beyond the facts, had built a house confidently on sand. How many is that now?
This makes 11.
Saw answered. The scene resembled the aftermath of a contagion more than a poisoning. Before Pendelv could think better of it, he found himself saying, It's spreading. Kandor clapped his hands together angrily.
Joran will hang for this.
The beacon already decreed his death for the destruction of Lucidus, Pendelv said. A man only has one life to give. A pity's one's jurisdiction doesn't extend to the afterlife, he added, hiding his sarcasm well.
Don't be so sure,
Saw said.
Technically, this man has 4 lives to give if justice is to be extracted properly.
A shiver ran up Pendelv's spine. The beacon's voice cut like ice. She spoke so calmly, so coolly, despite her torturous implications. The disorder in her own backyard weighed heavily on her, for this woman had become pregnant with vile ideas. The parser was reminded that everyone has a sleeping barbarian in them, not buried so deeply beneath the surface. Kandor licked his lips.
I can hardly wait for the jester to be roped to Nipper's back.
What about that?
Another emblem said with doubt. He was a short man with a narrow face and a stringy mustache. He recoiled under the heat of Kandor's scowl.
He's big. Newt is right. He is big.
Saw agreed.
Freakishly.
We forgot to cast Newt.
No match for the 10 of us.
Kandor said confidently.
And Nipper has carried heavier.
You muted. What's the line? Oh.
And Nipper has carried heavier.
Okay. For some reason that's different from what I have on my side, but it works. From there, the conversation devolved into valorous banter. They had their man, and they were bent on issuing justice, or their version of justice. None of them struggled to reconcile two things that Pendelv felt to be in conflict. The motives behind Adder's rampage and the subtlety of slow poison ran counter to one another. Most perpetrators operated with a steady pathology. Blundering and stealth did not often go hand in hand, just as an owl does not screech when it hunts for field mice. The beacon and her emblems had swiftly chosen madness as an explanation, and perhaps they were right. It was an explanation, and rudimentary enough for the simplest minds to understand. Jorn did appear to be at the center of everything, yet in previous cases the parser could be linked to crime in a similar fashion. When hunting criminals, one often finds themselves in the center of the action. To the untrained eye, prevention looked strikingly similar to guiltiness. Left to his own devices, Pendelv would sooner issue a stay of execution. The jester might be guilty, but he also might be involved for a different reason. While Saul had a vested interest in preserving order, the parser's unbiased interest remained fixed in uncovering the truth. To that end, following his instincts rarely failed him. Pendelv, the parser, acknowledged the day could go a number of ways. Either they captured a madman and put an end to his illogical crime spree, or they merely peeled back another layer of a much more complex scenario. Pendelv's instincts pointed him toward the latter. They told him this case was still a long way from being solved.
I don't know about you guys. I'm curious from Saw Kandor. I think Joran didn't do it, but that's me.
He's guilty.
He's
He'll
likely
pay for
guilty,
this.
and if he is, we'll have to, hang him 4 times over, I guess.
Anyone curious?
Surely pay for this.
It's because Joran has 3 callings as well. So himself, all 3 callings get to hang for his crimes. God dang. I love the people that came in to be Newt. I feel like we had 8 Newts, which is pretty cool. Where are we going next, Matt?
All right.
That they're about to track this guy down.
So we have Saw, Kandor, Pendelv, Chugash. We have that gang on the road walking toward this island where Joran was last seen. In their first part of this chapter, Pendelv's like, I've got other plans for Luke, this lizard beast of his. And so where we find this chapter is through Luke's perspective. Luke has gone, I guess I lied. I narrate this one too. And then I talk less.
I like you talking more.
Okay, great. Thanks for the encouragement there.
Not a problem.
That's all I needed to hear. Luke is interacting with Joran. He's like going to the island first to sift things out a little bit, to see what he can see, to understand this guy. So I'm going to start toward the middle of chapter 10.
Real quick, too, just hearing this. So we're going to be in almost the eyes of Pendelv's calling. Each callings have their own masteries, which means their own fantastical powers. What is Luke's?
Luke, at this point in the story, you know that Luke, you know one of his. He has what is called perfect camouflage. So he can change the shade or change the coloration of his scales to perfectly blend into the environment. Good point. That's a good thing to say.
That's what I'm here for, baby. That's what I'm here for,
baby. Yep. Sweet. Okay. In the stand of ferns, Luke did not dare move. The boulder-turned-fungus beast was enormous. For that matter, so was the man. For all the intimidation Adder warranted, the bovine hound was only the third tallest in the bunch. The man stood a head taller, towering over 10 feet, and the gray, mushroom-capped, peacock-feathered monster rose twice that. It stood as tall as Smitha, though possessed none of its branch-like lankiness. The emblems had mentioned the man's notable size, but nothing could have prepared Pendelv through his beast's eyes for the reality. The beacon's comment about her witnessing Joran descending from the sky while juggling, using his billow-headed beast as a parachute, now took on a different note. The humor in it was overshadowed by marvelous horror. The parser and his calling could only guess at their masteries.
Atter, my headstrong Atter,
Joran said.
How interesting. Inspecting, eh? A curious energy. Afraid? Likely to run if confronted? That's a good assessment. Where, you say? In the ferns? Camouflaged? That explains why you can see it and I cannot.
Luke's cold blood went colder. The beast willed itself to flee. Wait, Pendelv overrode his beast. It remained fixed in place.
Most impressive. I see. Strange beast. We can see you. We mean you less harm than you mean us, I reckon. Though we are not concerned by that fact. You see us here, minding our own beeswax. Connection-infused white chalkstone, to be exact. Perfectly waterproof. You can show yourself. Trust me when I tell you we are friendly. Time ought to reveal the truth in full. I cannot blame your hesitation, of course. From your perspective, I would also have my doubts. It says a lot that you would come and meet us, rather than let loose your horde, or subject us to the beacon's unpleasantries. Who are you? I am speaking to the person behind your eyes now. A visitor. Not from the water pendant. I know that much. You're in my nape of the neck, you know.
Luke dropped the camouflage and stepped out of the ferns.
Most impressive indeed,
Joran complimented. Adder huffed. The jester went on.
Adder saw you the other night. You were in the town square.
Adder huffed a second time and then lowered its head all the way to the ground to rub its face in the dirt.
That's an apology. Adder tells me you nearly got mixed up in the fight. No doubt you found us by following that stinking, smelling, sour stench. It is unconquerable, is it not? Say, was anyone hurt? Adder asked me to ask you. In fact, the beast pleads. I also admit a burning curiosity. Houses can easily be made anew and gallows rebuilt, but regrettably, people are so wonderfully fragile.
No casualties. Luke scattered the raindrops off its face, side to side.
That's a relief. However, the beacon is coming for me, isn't she?
Luke shook its head the other way, up and then down.
Mean-spirited woman.
Luke repeated the gesture.
Aha! And do you travel with them?
The large lizard beast lifted and lowered its head a third time. Jorn squinted into the blue eyes of Pendel's beast, all the way to the man who watched from within them.
You haven't decided which side you're on, have you, bub? Well, seeing is believing. Until that time, I won't expect any leeway. Hang me if you must, but do me one solid favor, will you? Don't do it until the sun comes out. Dead man's request.
Luke, Pendelv by proxy, nodded in agreement once more. He was not one to deny such a request. Such pleas carried weight that imperiled those who denied them. Still, it was not the nature of the request that hastened Luke's nod, nor the way he had made it. With his genuine glee and agreeable smile, the jester's light-hearted demeanor invited friendship, of all things. Far be it for Pendelv to make friends with a known vandal and the primary suspect in a series of murders. No, as Luke nodded, swirling about the parser lived a simple emotion, the one that drove him more than any other. Not pity or duty or charity, but curiosity.
Scene. Man, what a jester. What a 10-foot tall jester. It's so tough because I'm like looking at the time and I want to go fast, but I'm also like reading and I feel like he would speak a lot slower.
Yeah.
Kind of like an idiot.
Like a guy who doesn't know enough to come out of the rain.
Exactly, man.
Yeah, the character fits.
Thank you. Saw, do you think he would speak slower than I did? He just seems like this big oaf.
Yeah, it's kind of with a larger type character, you picture their voice being just a little bit on the slow side. I really love your voice for him, whether it's fast or slow, though. It is so fun.
It's Jack Sparrow. It's actually a spot-on Johnny Depp playing Captain Jack Sparrow.
It's spot on. Yeah. Don't take his word for it, but
it's a long story.
Don't go back and watch Pirates of the Caribbean, but do take his word for it.
Rob, anything you'd add? I mean, you feel like you played characters often in D&D. Same thing. Would you go slow?
No, I love it's perfect how you do it. Like it really incorporates the kind of, you get his personality from the voice and from kind of your tone and your intonation and all of that. I think it's perfect. I love it.
And you see like a drunken pirate, right? You see it too. You kind of see this whole thing. Where are we going next, Matt?
I'm not sure I'd say pirate, but drunken. It's kind of like what the book's
Lenny
called.
from Mice and Men.
Which funny you bring that up because Matt has created a short story based off From Mice and Men. He calls it From Mice and Boys.
Oh,
Matt,
Mice and Men, that is the book.
Speaking of Matt, where are we going next, man? Real quick, how are y'all with time? If we went a little bit over, are y'all cool with that?
I'm fine.
Saw, cool, Tala, Kandor.
A little bit over. I know Saw's got something, but now for a little bit. Cool. All right.
I got a hard stop like 15 after, but
okay.
Okay, sweet. We're coming to you actually, Kandor, and this is perfect timing. And we're jumping ahead in the story. We're going to go forward to chapter 44. This is one, I think it's just Kandor. I want this chapter. We did it before, but I really like it. And I think it's an opportunity for Kandor to really get to embody his character. At this point, so we're jumping ahead. Lots of things happen. Simply put, Pendelv and Jorn do become unified.
I knew it.
And they've sussed out that Jorn is not the killer, but Jorn is in fact involved because he is trying to protect people. The night that one scene that we jumped over is there's a night where Pendelv just arrives at the Beacon's estate. Luke goes down to investigate around town, and Adder, like this bovine hound, the one that I say is more cow and Dylan says is more dog, barrels through town and like knocks over 50 buildings. And so they're like, all right, we got our guy. You know, he's destroying the village. Like clearly he's mad. That's how that whole thing goes. But they get chased. Pendelv and Joran end up deciding the only thing that we can do to clear our names, now that their names are so intertwined, is to basically set a trap. There's these shadowy foes that like lurk in this alternate dimension that are the things that are killing people. It's these things that Adder wears these hagstones over his eyes. And I'm throwing a lot at you, but I'm trying to be succinct. He wears these hagstones over his eyes. It's like goes back to Druid traditions where they can like peer into different realms. So Adder is peering into this other realm constantly, which is why he can see Luke when he's perfectly camouflaged. He also can see these horrifying creatures in the Shroud, hence the name of the book, Behind the Shroud. So Candor saw corner them in the middle of this prairie. There's this super dried out like chasms, and they've fleed into the chasms with the intent to like corner Saw and Candor. Of course, Saw and Candor are trying to corner Pendelv and Joran too, and then they're going to have this showdown. After they're able to separate Saw and Candor, something happens to Saw where she is unconscious, and Joran is like cradling her body, and they're fleeing the chasms. This is where Candor comes in. All he sees is his boss limp being like thrown over Joran, their enemy's shoulder. He's like carrying her body out. So what's the conclusion that this guy, this trigger happy cop, if you will, is going to come to?
Poor, frail, weak body Saw just holding it. Joran just holding it. You know what I mean? Feels bad for her. So in a layman nutshell, Joran not guilty. Town and Saw still think he's guilty. Him and Pendelv become friends, get away, get into an altercation in which Saw, poor, limp, frail body, laying in Joran's arms, is in Joran's arms, and then Candor, trigger happy Jason Statham, sees it from afar.
Because Saw is the furthest thing from a damsel in distress,
just
the fact that Joran is saying that
frail.
Is something bad happens. Something bad had to happen to put her in that state. Okay, Candor, to you. Chapter 44.
Saw, you don't get a voice here. She's getting ready to say something.
Chapter 44, The Opportunist. Emblem Candor always hated Joran, and Pendelv from the moment he met him. If he were honest, he despised the Beacon too. She disgraced Lucidus and the emblems in her employ by bringing in a passer. They hadn't needed him. They had proved that by tracking the jester down and arresting him, getting a noose around his neck, and he would sooner not think about what happened next. Nipper took aim, fired off a bolt of aura. The jester ducked behind a boulder. At this range, with the slope working against him and a field of scree in his way, it would take a perfect shot. He slowed them down with a regular blast, forcing them to take cover. All the while, he scampered up the incline. He gained on him. His shot improved with every step. The promise of promotion fueled him on. With Saul gone, the Eldweiser would be looking for a new beacon of order. Emblem Candor measured himself a shoe-in. He would move out of his house into the Beacon's estate. He would garnish his lapel with new decor, the Beacon's brooch. In his new station, the emblems would fall under his authority. He could recruit more. He could expand Lucidus. He could run the Waterlands region as he saw fit, doing away with outmoded customs, ushering in a new era, true order, not the shitty-shouted version that Saul wrought, but one characterized by iron deterrence. For starters, Saul had to outsource pilots from Edifice. Such an embarrassment. A leadership devoid of inspiration failed to win over even one pilot from a single bandit family. Emblem Dannon did not count, as Gavian was not large enough to ride. Yet Hassan Bakken the Breaker, a plebeian outside of the bandit family, employed eight. Once he took over under his leadership, people would revere the name Beacon Cyrus Candor, the Sublime, the usher of peace. It will be a new era. He neared his core. They were getting frantic. They approached a section of the exit where they would be vulnerable. There the path steepened and lacked cover. They would be forced into the open, with no safe place left. They would have two choices, surrender or perish. He instructed Nipper to begin pooling aura. It was scant in the potch, but any master of auric projection knows how to manage his stores. Whenever possible, he collected aura into Nipper's keratinous scales, a trick he discovered by accident. Once, after mustering a heavy slug, he held his fire. Instead of allowing the aura to bleed out of his control, it redirected it into his Pangolian beast armor. His pangolin beast armor. Since any chance he got, he actively replenished his reserves. He reached his protected crook in time. Pendelf, who led, had yet to cross the choke point. Nipper took aim. The posse walked in the gap. Nipper fired a precision kill shot. The moment it left his calling snout, he knew it would connect. It moved swiftly, sizzling, hot, and blue. Its trajectory matched the pace of the posse. It would strike him dead in the side of his head, killing him on impact. He relished in a moment of triumph. Yes, good riddance. Impossibly, Nipper's blast dispersed in the inches before it took the posse in the temple. The air rippled, absorbing color, and then coalesced into the shape of a reptilian calling. The posse had used this beast as a shield. Its scales absorbed the blast, not without harm, but without fatality. Without missing a beat, with a reptilian beast over each shoulder, Gariel and Luke, Pendelf scurried for the exit. Before Candor could recover from his surprise, Jorn scampered across the gap, cradling Saw, whose eyes were open. She blinked, her expression numb. She was alive. They were taking her. Joran followed closely at Pendel's heels, dashing across the choke point, the exit less than 10 steps away. If they were allowed to reach it, Candor's slim advantage would evaporate into hopeless exposure. Precious time kept ticking while Candor fumed. The emblem recognized as Nipper readied itself that a kill shot at Joran would kill Saw. She would want him to take the shot, he told himself. Furiously, he withdrew all of the aura from within Nipper's scales. He drained the calling, preparing for one final blast. When he could extract no further energy, he took the shot. Full barrel, he screamed. The blast exploded from Nipper's gullet in a flash of violet. It billowed, releasing a concussive pressure wave. His targets disappeared behind a wall of dust. The incendiary missile wreaked havoc. Before him rose the glow of molten dust and the deafening thunder of vaporizing stone. Had he gotten him? It must be so. There was no escaping such a blast. Unseen to Candor, between him and his targets, two massive shells of stone calved off either face of the chasm. They shook the earth as they fell, collapsing more of the wall into the corridor. It amassed into a catastrophic rock slide. Emblem Candor licked his lips, tasting victory, blind to his grievous error. Out of the cold of dust emerged an avalanche of rock. The realization came too late. There was nowhere to go. The ferocious emblem and its armored beast staggered backward, dreaming of escape in spite of its impossibility. In anger, in sadness, in disappointment, in denial, in defeat, he faced death. He cursed it at the top of his lungs until the cascading stone swallowed his screams.
I love this character, man. The way you pronounce your B's is the absolute best. So, oh man, kudos. Matt, how do you think he did?
That was awesome, man. That was really enjoyable.
Rob, Charm, what do you think of this guy? Someone said it perfectly. They said, I can't imagine Candor with any other voice.
I love the voice. I love you. Again, you could tell the character's personality from the voice. Yes. I think it's great. I do have one suggestion, which is let the full stops linger like a split second more,
okay.
and I think the pacing would be a lot kind of smoother.
Okay.
But the voice is impeccable. I love it.
So good.
Love it.
Don't you just hate him, Saw? He's talking behind your back like this. Your character has no idea this is how he feels about you.
I think it's hilarious, and I think she probably also does kind of know that's how he feels about her, because he doesn't seem like somebody that like hides that really.
Yeah. You seem like a real loyal to me person with that voice of yours.
I can imagine him saying "boss" in a really patronizing, like
"boss."
Sure,
all right,
boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, give us a sure, boss, Candor.
Yeah, sure, boss.
I feel like the way Candor says bees is the way Draco Malfoy says peas when he says Potter. It's just it's so good. All right. Real quick, in case you're gone in this next read, Candor, incredible stuff, Kurt. Seriously.
Thank you.
Excited to have you back, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I do need to bounce.
All right, we'll get out of here, dude. We get it. Great job, and then just leave.
This was great.
We appreciate you, man.
See you, buddy.
Matt, where are we next? We got a little bit more time.
Yep, jumping ahead to Charm. Charm has his own chapter. Basically, Charm, the Eldweiser of Water, is this guy who's he's always just trying to develop his spirit. So what better place to go meditate than in the middle of the driest desiccation that there is on the face of this planet? It's just a way for him to feel a little bit more the world himself. So he's out there just meditating when he's interrupted by one of Pendelv's beasts and one of Joran's beasts as they come to him for help.
Just a quick apology before I start this, in that I haven't slept properly for 5 days, so I might yawn in the middle of this.
Honestly, probably perfect for your guy who's in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
One thing that I'd love to request ahead of you jumping into this is I want to articulate the stakes of you coming into Chugach's consciousness and helping the beast do literally like its pinnacle move. Something that in the story, like Pendelv will probably not do again for another 10 years. Eldweiser pops into Chugach's life, infuses it with this extra awareness, this enlightenment, and does the lightning leap. So when we're building toward lightning leap, the more you can try to really build toward that, I think that would be awesome.
It's actually something I was going to ask you was, how do you envision that line, the bring us with you now lightning leap? Because I don't think I'm getting it right.
The following text there is bellowed gleefully. Lightning leap! Like it's just such an exciting thing for him to get to do.
Right.
That
makes it click. Lovely.
Yeah.
I liked how much you put behind that too.
Yeah. I will do my best. Man knew nothing, yet he believed in things, many of which did not serve him. He overlooked what countered his views with a wish to surrogate reality. Yet by nature, his version never outshone the truth. Man passed ideas around like refreshments, although few refreshed. Man made an enemy out of his brother and a sister out of chaos. Man ran from disease in search of ease and made himself sick and tired. Man believed in bad ideas and dressed himself in shackles. Ideas like connective range, like time, like possession. Man damned the river and then cursed stagnation. Man claimed ownership of the water as it slipped through his fingers. Man stopped his own heart to keep his self-inflicted wounds from bleeding out. And what was charm if not a man by nature? Then again, the god made him something more. As Eldwiser of Water, along with the gift of his eternal calling a Carl, the god granted charm alone the command of Water Chi. With it came the healing power of water. Short of resurrection, all shortage of health could be restored by his touch. Charm let the Water Chi flow through a Carl into the desiccation. He slowly drained himself of it, allowing it to bleed from him and his calling as an offering. The Eldwiser wanted to feel the state of the earth, to become one with its coarseness, to acquaint himself with his own depravity. He wished for nothing to alter his awareness. He aimed to look deeper than the false surface of his sanctity. How deep is my sainthood? He asked himself. He reckoned it was quite shallow. In truth, he underestimated his capacity. He channeled much and was the steward of more. Beneath his still waters lurked great depth. The more he stripped himself of comforts, the more he became aware of his surroundings. The parch was achingly sick, but not dead. Not wholly, less so today. He was not alone. Two beasts approached his person. Charm greeted without opening his eyes. And you must be Chugash. The wolf beast radiated surprise to hear Charm speak its name. The Eldwiser continued, depleted of self, feeling the warmth of their emotions. Well, we are depleted, eh? Fill yourselves with our abundance, and then let us be off. As he spoke, the dark-skinned sage craned his neck to peer over the horizon. With the brush of a patient smile, he watched as the pilot guards swept into the gorge. Charm directed the flow of water chi into the two callings. He found them empty, grievously taxed by the parch. After a modest offering, they were healed in full. Let us be off, I said. The Eldwiser of Water repeated, making eye contact with Chugash. Your mastery is best suited, unless you wish to wait around for your friends who, not to cast aspersions, appear to be as mad as rapids. Darkness animates them. They are shadows in the skulk of an Azigra, not to be trifled with. Not to be trifled with. Well, the Eldwiser blinked expectantly at the wolf beast. Shall we? Chugash huffed. The beast did not know what was being asked of it. May I offer my assistance? Charm hitched his consciousness to a cord of aura and reached into Chugash. The Eldwiser spoke into the calling's mind, asking the same question once more. Going beyond words, this request accompanied a psychic uplifting. It did not force, nor plead. It did not goad, nor beg. It was just a request, but at the same time, it was more. It was a petition buoyed by trust, by openness, and by safety. It did not refuse to be accepted, but garnered favor through unequivocal unity. It was as if one half of self spoke to the other and appealed to their common interest. Chugash accepted. Charm's voice resounded out of the silence of non-thought. Now envision your person. Think of his presence. Be in it. Be of it. There is no distance between you. You are there and he is here. The Eldwiser kept his tone calm but firm. He waited, monitoring the static charge that amassed in the crest of Chugash's antlers. Bring us with you. Now, lightning leap! A voice bellowed gleefully. Out of the clear blue sky, lightning struck the plateau. It consumed them, dissipating them into raw energy. A second later, across the parch, lightning struck again. Its force knocked 2 men to their knees. They sheltered the feeble life forms they carried, with energy mustered from will alone. They were battered, bloodied, on the brink of death themselves. Yet they rose in unison, ready to defy death once more. Joran, Moana Funzi Kapenzi, Charm greeted. Favorite student. A reunion long due.
Love that, man. That was great. Love the lightning leap.
Yeah, it got me too. It like jolted me up.
Yeah.
Good. I got it right then. So
yes. I think the cool part of you, Rob, is like you naturally sound like a sage. So you're playing a sage. I was like, yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm in.
Nice. Thank you.
No problem.
It's interesting having I hadn't had I've read bits of it, but I hadn't had enough to fully grasp a lot of the story, and the stuff we've done this session has made me understand a bit more about what I'm talking about in this chapter. Yeah. So I really now understand what I'm actually doing and saying, and that's made a big difference to it.
Nice.
I'm gonna say it, Matt, real quick, because it's funny you say that. I like reached out to Matt before this, and I'm like, hey, we're doing some of the same chapters, and he's like, well, before we do take this like live and do an audio drama, like really practicing it, I would love to get to a point, Matt, where it's like maybe every other week we just do it in order. And like we're slowly uncovering the story now that we're like Rob's getting his feet under him. Saw had her feet under her, frail feet.
That's a weird joke, dude.
It really sounds like you are like King Kong carrying the woman up the Empire State Building. By the way you're describing this.
I have a 10-foot tall character. It's the closest I will get to King Kong. Oh man, what are we doing next, Matt? How many more chapters we got? Two
more, and we definitely have our opportunity to showcase Tala. So Tala, you've been so patient. Thank you. Your character, it's a smaller character, but you are not a smaller character in my heart. So we're gonna get your time. First, though, we're gonna do Pendelv, Eldweiser, and Joran. This is like just literally the lightning strikes. They're transported. We're picking up right where we left off.
This is the next chapter.
Next chapter, chapter 48, The One Who Loves. All right.
Should I give context about Joran's name before we go in? Because this chapter actually makes fun of me. Because when I was looking for characters, I was like, what's a good druid, like Celtic, Norse name that starts with a J? Because I'm a jester. And I was looking things up and I saw Joran. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this name sounds awesome. And I looked at the definition and it was on Google and it was one who loves. And I'm like, this is perfect for my character. Let's lock it in. Joran the Jester. Matt started writing it. Like we're far into the creation of the book. And I go back, as we were talking about, I go back and look at the name and it cut off on the webpage. So when you open it, Joran actually translates to one who loves horses, and it just ruined everything. So it went from one who loves to one who loves horses. I'm like, damn it, dude, just part of it. So if anyone's curious of why the interaction goes the way it does in this chapter, that being said, we'll dive in.
Sweet. One final thing, because this is such a back and forth and there's snippets of dialogue, let's do our best to be snappy with it.
Got it.
Yep.
Cool.
I like your directorness. Evan, you'd be proud. Go ahead, Matt.
Chapter 48, The One Who Loves.
And you?
Charm said, turning to the parser.
We hope you don't mind us hitching a ride.
The Eldweiser of Water bowed respectively. He placed a hand over his heart. His dragon calling transformed into water. It hovered above them, showering them all in cool mist. At once, Joran felt the ache in his bones lessening. The burden of the parch eased. You, what did you do? Pendelf stammered, looking from Chugach to Charm to Akal. He blinked hard, rubbing his eyes with a sleeve, but nothing would steal away the image of them. He sent a cautious hand to touch his wolf beast's antlers, but pulled it away rapidly as if stung. You rode lightning? That happened?
Didn't know Chugach could do that?
Charm asked, and then laughed.
My gift to you.
Okay, if he gets a gift,
Joran said.
How about something for the one who loves?
Who?
The Eldwazer asked.
Me!
Joran scoffed.
The one who loves?
Horses.
Charm added.
What?
Horses.
What?
Horses?
What?
Oh, wait.
One more.
I've just added horses there, haven't I? Should we carry on? Are we?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll start again. Me, the one who loves?
Horses.
Charm added.
What?
Horses.
What?
Are we communicating?
Charm asked. Joran scratched his head.
What about horses?
Your name, it means...
Joran cut him off again.
Yes, I know. The one who loves.
Horses.
Charm said again.
I don't follow you.
Joran said, rolling his eyes.
Forget it. I need a gift too.
You need a gift?
A gift. A favor. A boon.
Charm put his hands on his hips.
You aren't going to ask me for a horse, are you?
I have no use or love for horses. No.
Joran growled, pouting. He moved on. In an instant, his face reversed. He began to smirk.
I want to prove to Pendel that there is no better juggler in the whole of the continent.
It was Pendel's turn to interrupt. Can the juggling wait? Eldwazer, can you assist? But the words went unsaid. He did not need to finish asking for Charm's help healing the beacon. He felt Gariel's hot breath on his cheek and saw in his peripheral vision a blinking green eye with a vertical pupil. At the same time, he witnessed Saw awaken in Joran's arms. Without missing a beat, the parser set the beacon's reptilian beast in the dust. He took several large steps behind Chugach, just in case either Saw or her calling reverted to their murderous state. As he stepped back, he caught sight of the rest of their beasts, each of them restored, actively healed. On the contrary, the evidence of Luke's well-being lied in the beast's disappearance, now that it could reinstate its active camouflage.
That's settled,
Joran said, planting Saw on her feet. Thank you, the parser said to Charm.
Before the juggling,
the Eldwazer interjected, squinting at the jester inspectingly.
What have you done to provoke Hassan Bakan's pilot guard?
It's a long story, Pendel answered. Joran cut in.
They need our help.
What is wrong with them?
Charm asked. A call, still water, gently rained on them. Over time, the eternal beast began to pool underfoot. When enough of it had precipitated, it swirled itself into mud. Then it pulled itself into an amorphous form, lifted itself up, now dirty brown instead of clear and translucent. As it rose, the mud drained out of its body so that its head and upward hooking tail cleared first, until all the mud accumulated in a pocket near the lowermost segment of its torso. The hovering blob of mud attracted Adder's attention. When the bovine hound reared up on its back legs to get a closer look, a call released the pool of mud into Adder's face and onto its back. Adder dropped to all fours, strangely content. Once again, the beast's vision was blotted out, first by hagstones, then by hair, and now by caked mud. It appeared to prefer blindness. They have a parasite. We're calling them shroud hounds, Pendel answered, taken aback by the Eldwazer's ignorance. He imagined that nothing happened in the Waterlands without his awareness. His knowledge of Chugach, having never met, suggested as much.
They're a form of a Zigra,
Joran added. Charm took a moment to digest what the men told him.
So, who is hunting who?
We sprung a trap.
Jorn answered. He went on to explain the whole ordeal, beginning with the discovery of their hydrophobia, leading on to the strategy of luring them into the plains. The jester grinned at the parser and credited him with the clever plan. He left out a handful of details that he did not wish to be the bearer of, covering only what was critical to enlist the Eldweiser's assistance. The jester elaborated on the weakness of the hounds, gesturing to Saw when he mentioned the horrible stench following their demise. He spoke on the 12 deaths, making no mention that he was the one sent to the gallows as the prime suspect. He avoided with great prejudice the matter of his escape, his utilization of to give almost 60 individuals hallucinations, the kidnapping of an emblem's calling, and the fact that luring the Shroud Hounds onto the pilot guard and those still in Lucidus was his plan to begin with. The unspoken underline of his briefing, easily detectable to the parser's trained ear, was, all would be well that ended well.
And Bashan's pilot guard is about to walk right into it.
I'll believe it when I see it, Pendelv thought. As soon as the idea occurred to him, he glanced over at Jorn, who watched him inquisitively. When they made eye contact, the jester winked. The parser could not help but chuckle, knowing without a doubt that at that moment his giant companion experienced precisely the opposite thought. Whew.
That was a quick one, man. You were going fast. I can tell because we're at time and we want to get to Tala's part.
Exactly.
That was fast. How are you with time, real quick, Matt?
I'm good.
Okay, cool.
How's Tala?
Tala, how are we doing with time?
She's good.
They've been waiting. People have been waiting.
Yeah, exactly.
People
She's
are jumping in. Like we just had an uptick. It's like people know Tala's about to talk. And they're like, okay, yeah, we'll tune in now.
All right. So to bring us forward into the story, Tala, who is the captain of the pilot guard, pilots in Bastunia, it's kind of a colloquialism. Anybody who has a beast that can fly, one, and that is large enough to ride is dubbed a pilot. And so Hassan Bashan has 8 of these pilots in their pilot guard. Tala is by far the most foreboding of the 8. And so imagine you have this like triangle or like this V formation of massive beasts flying in over the parch. They've been chasing Pendelv and Jorn for a better part of a day. And now they finally have their last showdown. It's the pilot guard on one side, led by Tala. On the other side, we have Pendelv, Jorn, Saw, the Eldweiser, and their respective beasts. I'd say you just start at the top, Tala.
That sounds good. No worries. Okay. The pilot guard came in, Claw and Talon and Hoof first. Borean, the Ursagriff beast, led. Tala rode as one with her mount, absorbing the forceful shifts in trajectory with muscles won over thousands of flown miles. She had navigated blizzards in the north, ascended up to the mid-tiers of the Great Mountain, and explored all the way to crescents in the southwest. In all those miles, she had never encountered such a peculiar fog. It appeared and vanished between blinks. One moment she or one of the guards would be lunging to strike the fugitives. A dense fog would veil their approach. The next moment, the path would clear again, with the target having evaded the strike. She recognized it as one of the defensive tricks of the disciplines, but more advanced than anything she had seen since leaving the North over a decade ago. Certainly more advanced than Borean's ability to hibernate. Her calling could lower its heart rate and metabolism in order to sleep off months at a time. If not for Borean's gift of flight and rideability, it would not be of much use to her. She worked with what she had to press the attack. The pilot guard focused their attention on the 2 men. With 8 menacing pilots and 8 armed guards surrounding and subduing an enemy was only a matter of time. As a unit, they had meager command of their masteries, but no matter. Knowledge of the disciplines helped. But Tala had found that teamwork and coordination trumped individual displays of power 10 times out of 10. With confidence, Tala relied on Borean's natural gifts, serrated talons, and nimble flight. She deployed Borean's wings first. His beast dive-bombed Joran. At the last moment, it spread its wings wide and pulled up. A flurry of dust billowed outward. Another heavy beat of her totem's wings lifted Tala into a supervisory position as a second, third, and fourth pilot magnified the jarring wind. At the same time, the other 4 pilots mimicked the tactic on Pendle the Parser. A cloud of dust rose around them. Tala squinted, assessing the damage. An ordinary man would be brought to his knees against the gale force wind generated by a single well-calculated wind beat. 4 in sequence might knock a man unconscious. She dared to hope. Unfortunately for her, their typical adversaries were not of quadripara-type mind, nor members of a pandit family. Squinting into the cloud, there Joran stood in the center, smirking at her. And Pendle, too, protected against the onslaught by his tree totem, whose fronds were blasted apart like a palm tree in a hurricane. His blonde hair was wild and his glasses were knocked askew, and yet the subtle smile on his face held steady. Tala gritted her teeth, her anger inflamed. In a well-drilled sequence, the 8 pilots regained elevation, assembling into a circular formation. They spread out. Tala on Borean led the procession, but she followed closely behind the 8 and final. They became like birds of prey, circling, riding on the thermal updrafts, calculating their strike. As they soared, Tala accounted for the beacon of order, sitting mutely in the dirt, transfixed with her back up against Her beast, Gariel, lifted its head and swirled its eyes in a melding of temperaments between dizziness and wonder. Above relief at discovering the beacon was alive, Tala gave no serious thought to her condition. Her primary mission was an extension of oaths sworn to the Botchans. It had nothing to do with the laws of the Waterlands or the politics of the Pandit family. The fugitives were her prisoners and those who aided and abetted their escape. With cold dispassion, she would rob these men and their callings of their stolen freedom. If they would not go unwillingly, it was within the scope of her authority to end their fight permanently. At one time, she would have considered her job well done to see them imprisoned again. Now, she cared not for the nuances of the case, such as whether or not they were innocent, guilty, or somewhere in between. Those individuals who paid her contract wanted them back in a cage, dead or alive. Once she delivered, she would let her superior sort out the particulars. Her pay depended on it. Even if Beacon Sorrento called her off, Tala would insist the woman take it up with Hassan Bashan in edifice. In any case, the Beacon was in no state to object. All at once, on her cue, from all directions, the pilot guard attacked. They swooped down, wielding their natural weaponry, hell-bent on landing on a conquering blow. On her word, they unleashed a storm of sword, fur, and feathers. Throughout the assault, the flame-headed giant toyed with them. He sidelined these beasts. He dashed his way and that, at times moving toward the assailing pilot. He whooped and hollered. He taunted. He recited odd poetry. He strung words together that had no meaning. All the while, he chuckled. As Borean bombed toward the blonde, bespectacled parser, she laid eyes on a new figure. He sat in a peaceful way, with his feet hooking over his thighs. He was tall and calm and dark of feature. 2 braided locks ran down the length of his back and brushed in the sopping dirt. He watched her with familiar eyes. He exuded signs of recognition, and she felt the same, but she could not place him, nor could she place his calling. Mostly because at present it was coalescing out of this sticky, humid air into a column of water. As it united itself, it began to spin rapidly about, splashing itself in all directions. But the droplets did not fly true. They disregarded gravity. Instead, the spray floated, flowing into orbitals which rotated around the beast at differing speeds. The suspended rain formed a cyclone, with the man sitting cross-legged at the base. His beast did not interfere with her mission, not technically. While it impeded her visibility, it posed no threat, though it did leave them soaked through. Albeit after a day of chasing fugitives across the parch, more than anything, the moisture refreshed. Suddenly, it dawned on Tala how she knew the man's face. She did not know him, but his sister, the Eldwiser of Earth. He was Charm Aurelian, the Eldwiser of Water. The calling was a call, the eternal water dragon. But of course, at once everything clicked into place. But what was he doing here? And what was the smell? The two thoughts vied for her attention. Below, mixing in the mud below the water dragon, was a vile orange sludge. Many of our pilots were speckled with the stuff too. Spots of slime dotted their clothes. It reeked. Was the Eldwiser there to help her catch the fugitives? She could scarcely consider the implications at the moment, as Borean brought her around for another pass. They dove, her beast's 2-inch claws bared, ready to extract a pound of flesh from the jester. In front of her, he caught a stone, tossed another, and then tugged and rolled. The stone flew up and over her head, right in front of her face. It had a hole in it. Borean reached out, attempting to rake its claws across his back. Fog appeared. Fog vanished. And the jester, now behind her, caught and tossed another stone. This one sailed high, flying in front of two pilots. A blossom of orange appeared on both of their chests. Tala looked down to see her own garments soaked, not just in water, but in the evil-smelling, rotten, vitriolic goo. Borean's fur, her saddle, the reins, and the rest of her tack were coated. She gagged. What was this stuff? After several more unsuccessful passes, she opted to change their tactic. She landed, dismounted Borean, and signaled for the pilot guard to form up. Together, the 8 of them landed in a circle, brandishing steel, holding a perimeter. Tala saw that each of them were equally tarnished. Together, they stunk to the Earth Temple and back. "Jorin the Jester!" Tala shouted. "I am under orders to return you to Edifice." You're on
mute.
You start again, damn it. Because I
John,
really had the timing.
Okay. Jorin!
Now you're muted. This is good. I'm really liking this. I'm just going to go right into it. How are you feeling, Captain?
Jorin asked, tossing 2 hagstones to Adder. At once, the bovine hound restored its eye stones, oracally affixing them to its face. The jester scrunched his brow as Adder inspected each member of the guard in turn. As her heart settled, Tala became aware of her pounding head. It felt as though she had been somewhere else and only suddenly returned to her body, a body that was in pain. Her mouth was dry, her face burned from the sun's belligerence, and her skin was raised by the peppery wind. The water mixed with the sweat turned to salt in her wounds. It was like awakening from a dream when the emotions are fresh and real, but the dream itself shattered and out of reach. "A little wet and a little pissed off," she said.
I can see that.
Jorin said.
"How did you like my juggling?"
As they began speaking, a call drew its water into itself and returned to scaled form. Now reassembled, the dragon calling was even larger than she thought. Its shadow crossed over her, blotting out a quadrant of the sky. In this form, it was undeniably one of the 4 eternal callings. The blond man, Pendle the Parser, stepped forward to address her. Along with the jesters, his 3 beasts lingered behind him in posture of passive non-resistance.
We know you are under Hassan Bashan's employ, responsible for returning Joran, and likely myself, to Edifice. Do you acknowledge the higher authority of the Water Pandit in this region, that of the Beacon of Order or the Eldwiser of Water?
Tala grunted. That is a question for my employer. Pendelf went on.
It was the Beacon herself who instructed Master Bashan to imprison Joran in the first place. Surely her advocacy of our innocence would supersede your employer's orders?
Not to me, it wouldn't, Tala said simply.
I see.
Pendelf said.
If you were in my position, what would you do, Captain?
I would go quietly to Edifice and let the truth be sorted out by these higher authorities.
Is that so?
The parser said, nodding peaceably.
Very well.
While Pendelf appeared amenable to arrest, the jester did not appear to grasp the implications of his situation.
Eldwiser,
He began.
Can you believe they said I couldn't juggle?
The jester asked.
Oh, is that what you were doing?
The Eldwiser of Water asked him, coming to stand at Tala's side.
Were your eyes closed?
Joran said, gawking.
I counted 11 stones at once.
Charm smiled.
I see no reason to contradict you.
Are you going to let him have this one?
The parser asked, casting a quick glance at Adder, who breathed heavily as if, until moments ago, the beast was engaged in some strenuous work.
Will it make any difference?
The blonde parser shook his head.
When he looks in the mirror, he sees a juggler.
You better believe it.
Joran said cheerfully. Eldwiser, will you try to stop me from arresting these men and their beasts? Tala asked, wanting to express deference, but also wishing to avoid upsetting her employer. Both were powerful men in different ways.
I won't try to stop you.
Charm answered.
You won't.
Saw said and tried to stand.
They're innocent.
The Eldwiser smiled.
I have more pressing matters, Beacon. I need to go with you to Lucidus to destroy the rest of the hounds. Once that is resolved, I will come for them.
The hounds? Tala asked. She ran the back of her hand over her cloak, scraping off a layer of disgusting glue and flicking it into the dirt. She held her nose away while she did, straining to avoid the burn of the stench. The rest of the guards showed similar malaise. Does someone want to explain what just happened?
They saved your lives, that's what.
Saw managed. Tala bit her lip. Saved us? I'm listening.
Well, you see.
Fancy.
Nice.
Tala. I love how like you read with such you're so excited that it gets me excited. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a fucking battle going on.
Yeah, the kind of emphasis behind the fight.
Yeah. What was that, Tala?
I mean, it was an exciting moment, so even I was getting carried away.
Just juggling. And if you want more context, you're gonna have to read the book, which you can now get on Amazon. Correct, Matt? Hard
That's
copy
right.
sent right to you.
We'll
Is
put
it
the
available in
comments.
the UK?
Oh yeah, it's on Amazon.
Cool.
In
will look.
yeah, in the UK.
Ingram Spark, yeah. All right, and if you want to follow, that was awesome. That is seen, Matt. Anything you'd like to say? That was fun. I'm excited that if you're interested and you're watching this and you would like us to do like a consistent weekly or bi-weekly read, chapter by chapter, let us know. Hopefully these folks will be happy to come back to do table reads. I'm speaking for them as I stare at them, hoping that they'll nod their heads. They all do. This is fun because then you can purchase the book, you can read it with yourself or your kids, and you can come here, read it with us, and just understand the characters as you read through. And if you want to learn more about what we're doing, feel free to check us out on all platforms. We're back to posting consistently on TikTok while the app is still here. We're also posting on YouTube Shorts. We're posting on Instagram and Facebook. If you like the stuff, you can also join our Facebook group and check out Evan Winston's work as well. Speaking of,
Yeah, let's see it.
Oh, you really focused on the 2 in the front. Wow.
Wasn't that the point?
I don't know. I didn't know what the point was.
It's great.
I really dig it. This will be the cover for our upcoming origin novel, Harbinger, which for the longest time I thought was called Harbinger or Harbringer. It's pronounced Harbinger, in which I now know. Evan, how do you feel about it, man?
The cover? Yeah, I'm all right with it. I think I probably need to do a bit more figuring out of the values, but yeah, I'm all right with it.
Evan's 5 out of 10 is our 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
I know. The amount of times we're like, wow, that is so done, and let's share it with everybody on our social media. And then Evan will come back and have a new iteration. We're like, oh, not done to Evan's standards.
Yeah, I like that.
Incredible.
Well,
That's it from me. We're going to see Evan's brilliance as we continue to move forward. We'll do other Facebook Lives where we talk about the children's books coming up. Make sure you're following for that. Matt, anything you want to add?
This is terrific. I mean, I wrote the story with with this scene in mind, and I love that as soon as I see Evan's renditions, I no longer see what I used to see, and that's a good thing. It completely eclipses my own meager imagination with something that's so much more real and better. So you crushed it, man.
I just realized who he was sitting with. This is really nostalgic. And speaking of Matt's work, can we all give it up for Matt's work, us reading Behind the Shroud? It's like, that's a professional book. I'm like, dang. So Matt, seriously, your mastery of the written word is awesome. You make us all sound very good. All we have to do is have a voice. Let's give it up for Saw. Very unfrail Saw. You were incredibly cold and scary. Give it up for Saw. Thank you for coming. You're welcome. Let's give it up for Charm. You are wise. At least you come across as wise. Love you as Charm. And let's give it up for Tala. That is gripping stuff. Great way to talk about a fight scene. So we appreciate everybody that watched for an hour and 46 minutes. Holy shit. I am going to go spend time with my son. And if you're watching this, go log off for the weekend. Spend time with people you care about, people you love. Go be creative and get lost in your imagination. And we will see you on the next stream.
Thank you.
Thank you all.